Hello gamers, I am coming at you live from my room at 3 a.m. having just finished a song that took me a week. So I thought, since I have a lot of that progress archived, that I can make a little fun video about how the hell I make my little tunes. So if you want to learn the ways of the Zamir and maybe become your own Mozart, you can stick around and I'll show you the ropes. So like all things, music starts with an idea, and my idea was, hey, in Plain Reality there's a character who makes rock music. What if I made a rock music? And then, before I knew it, my entire week was gone. So I mentioned the music comes from ideas, right? So basically the first thing I do is I sit down for a second, just whistle to myself, put random notes in my brain, and then eventually some songs come out. And once I have my basic idea, I go to my computer and I open up my program of choice. I'm being very generous calling it a program. It's a website. It's just a website. So for this song I use beatbox.co. It's a really good website where you can sketch chiptunes and shit like that. I switch between Beatbox and Modbox, which are basically the same thing, except Modbox is a little better if you're like, Beatbox has presets for like existing instruments and some other features I also really like. Modbox has more like, I guess, chiptune-y things. So it really depends on what kind of song you're wanting to make. I'm not gonna explain to you how Beatbox or Modbox work. I'm just gonna leave that to you, buddy. You can go ham. So basically, I said I have a basic idea in mind of what I want the melody to be. So I just take the melody, I just take the first channel, I set it to an instrument that I think is kind of like what I would go for. For this, I can't see the screen right now, but I probably used overdrive guitar or something. Which I do change later. But I put the melody that I had in my head, like the basic like front melody, and then just to get it down, and then I just go from there. Usually I won't do any of the background tracks until I have the melody done. So for more complicated songs, I go and I make a little demo. Demo is really short, it's really simple, it's not the final version at all. I'm gonna put the demo version and I'm gonna play it right now just so you can see. So that was the demo version, kind of shit. Like I said, gets the basic idea across. The demo version I did for this one, the timing was really fucked up, and so I had to tweak that a lot. And you can see some of the original melodies, like the ending isn't the same, shit like that. And this is where things get really fucking tedious. So I'll be sitting for like days and hours at a time, just taking that demo and thinking of new parts for it, like trying to get it to the song to the length I want, getting the timing right, and for more complicated songs like this one, it's super hard to get the timing right. You see, the problem with Modbox is that sometimes it's like, it's because it's so simple, and that's why I like it so much, but it can be a little restrictive sometimes. So like, timing's hard to match down all the time, and like I can't drag notes across channels, so I had to like do the ending bit for the song in Audacity, which you'll see once I play the full song. You'll see the dragged out bit. Another problem I have with Modbox is that, Beatbox in this case, is that all their instruments kind of sound like MIDIs. So it took me a lot of work to make it sound as not MIDI as possible, but it sounds like a MIDI nonetheless. So I tried my best to, you know, fix that by, you know, doing that little, I think you'll be able to see it, little slidey things. You can make the notes do a little slide. Yeah, it makes it sound like a guitar. I don't know. One thing that like brings everything together is I'll talk about two things here. Just stuff that are happening, just something that's happening in the background. Like the tracks, like there's a main track, there's the melody, right? And then there's the tracks in the background. Those are so annoying and tedious to do, and I hate doing them. But if you have like each little background bit doing a little, like it's gonna be similar to the melody, but it's gonna be doing its own little thing. And it's just like, if you can find a way to make that sound good and make it sound good all together and kind of make it sound good on its own, it's like, it's so nice. Another thing that I love about this song particularly, I really like how I did the drums. I hated doing drums in Modbox at first, but now I love them. When I use the beatbox, their drums are a lot better because they have like standard drum set presets and shit like that, so it makes it sound like, it sounds almost indistinguishable from a real drum in my opinion. Modbox, you have like only really generic chip shit to work with. So yeah, I like beatbox a lot better when it comes to the drums, and I think it really makes this song, honestly. As you can see, as I'm showing the final versions of this beatbox file, you can see how crazy the numbers are getting. That's not Beatbox's fault, that's my fault because I don't know how to organize things. So I made myself 30 channels to work with, well, 30 patterns to work with, and I didn't quite need that much. But instead of going in order like a normal person, I just picked random numbers, so don't do that, it's confusing. Like halfway through this process, I got really bored, so I just remade the song, but like stupid. Yeah, and that was stupid and all, but honestly, if you get tired of a song, I would suggest just like duplicating it and trying to see how much you can change the genre of what it sounds like just by changing the instruments and shit, because it can be refreshing. Also, it's just really fun to destroy a song completely if you've been working on it for too long. It's liberating. The version I used to change up those instruments and make it into a shitty song is actually my second demo, I think. Quote-unquote second demo. It was more like me making progress on the final thing. It's the closest I have in my doc file of the Modbox links to like the final version. It was still like really early into it, but it was progress. You can see throughout this how I've spiced things up by layering the notes on top of each other a bunch of times to make like a more, I guess, layered sound. Instead of it just being really, like if you don't layer it a lot in Modbox, it can be kind of quiet, so it's also nice to have it layered. When it comes to thinking of melodies, which I had a lot of problems with here, I don't really have any advice other than if you're stuck, just like I said, sit around and whistle, or just hit random notes until something sounds like it could be possibly not bad. So that's what I do. Usually my shit has like a main note to it, and usually that's what most of the little bits start with, and that's how I know. So if I'm stuck on like a new section, I'll just know, okay, I'll start it with this note, and this usually gets me going places. Like for example, this song's, a lot of its parts start on just C, so that was pretty easy for me when I was stuck. I'm just like, okay, I'll start on C, and then that was my fixer for most of the bits I was having trouble with. Alright, so we're at the final version now. I have finished my process. This is what we're going in, boys. Alright, so if you recognize the last little bit and you're like, oh, I recognize that, that's because it's the main theme of Plain Reality, but rock. So I ran out of ideas, and I'm just like, oh, here's a fun motif, so I just threw it in. Another thing I like to do with songs is just like, for example, you can hear like Plain Tune in almost like the influence of Plain Tune in almost every song in the Pre-Reality album. Like that's called a musical motif, or just like a motif is what you would say. Motifs can be used in other things like literature and shit like that, but we're talking about music now, so this is a musical motif. Motifs, they're just like little bits of song and shit like that. They can sometimes mean things based on context, like that you set up. Like, for example, if I'm gonna use like a really nerdy, like music nerd example here, the Dies Irae is like a little music motif. I don't remember exactly how that goes, but you can hear it in like pardon my theater kid knowledge, but Sweeney Todd has the Dies Irae in like everything, and it basically symbolizes death. So I'm gonna use a really simple like, you know, scenario here. If a character is going to die and you like put the Dies Irae in their theme, then you're foreshadowing they're going to die, basically. So that's like the basic I guess explanation to what a motif is. For the motif I used here of just the main theme being in the song, for some reason it doesn't mean anything, I just thought it was cool. Plain Tune does kind of mean something. It basically, like, I guess it just means dev. It's the dev's theme. If Plain Tune is in something, then that means dev is related somehow. Not exactly a motif, but if two characters are like related or something, then I'll probably like use similar instruments or a similar tune with different instruments. Another example of a kind of motif that has a little bit more meaning that I use is in chapter 2. There's this song called Snow Lullaby, I think it is, and that little tune is like played throughout the entirety of chapter 2. You can look in songs and you'll be like, oh, there it is. So yeah, honestly, that's just about all I have to say. So, I hope maybe you learned something from this, or were just interested in your third eye has opened from learning all these epic tips. So, you know, if you aren't subscribed to the Epic Plain Reality channel and have no idea what you're doing here, how you got here, then you should hit that subscribe button. And, you know, maybe if you're not already following us on Instagram or, you know, in our Discord, you can get on that right now. That makes me very happy. And I make better music when I'm happy. There's a link in the description to the Instagram and the Discord, as I previously mentioned. And if you want to, you know, hit those up, do it. It would be very much appreciated.